As musicians, songwriters, recording people, and dare I say, audio slaves, we often spend time working at our craft, developing and then honing whatever skills go into what we do. But creativity involves more than just craft, and the other side of that coin sometimes is magic. I'm not an especially superstitious person, but I do think that there is something out there, like a great source from which we get good ideas. It doesn't really matter whether that source is a higher power or just like the collision of a bunch of accidents that then inspire you. The point is to be inspired. That is the catalyst, the spark that you need, or at least that I need, in order to feel good and excited about whatever I'm crafting. And over the last few days, I've been working on a song that needed as much spark as it could get. The song is called Pretty Mess, and I started writing it back in 2010. Saturdays are so empty. I knew there was promise there, and that's why I've tried again and again to capture whatever that promise might be, but it's always ended up sort of being its namesake, like a colossal mess. In fact, one of my all-time worst recordings was an earnest attempt to capture this song. She walked in without a misstep. She's got her black tights and a vintage dress. And it's hard to explain why it was always such a challenge, in part because I don't remember what was really going on in 2013. But over the last few years, every time I've tried to touch the song, I've activated too much of the craftsperson and too little of the conjurer. And the result is that I end up with work that is on some level gratifying, satisfying, but never really feels like a real creation. It kind of feels like I'm painting by numbers in a book that I wrote almost 15 years ago. For some reason, I decided that I wanted to work on that song again this week, so I brought it out into the shed, and things started as they normally do, with a slightly lame idea that threatened to trap me in the same cycle. It's strange, it's like I was trying to force the song into a mold that I only half remember because I never fully realized it and I only really saw it clearly many, many years ago. So I stopped myself and I turned off the craftsperson in my brain, the person who knows the things that work and then does those things, and I tried to turn myself into a conjuring soul. So I started trying weird stuff, and when something inspired me, I seized upon it. I know from experience what the inspired feeling is like. It comes in a bunch of forms. It could be like goosebumps or laughing out loud or just starting to swear profusely. Holy shit, wait. In this case, I found myself cackling at the sound of a cheap guitar through a cheap and kind of finicky sub-octave. The way I use this, it creates kind of a synthy sound, which is already pretty far away from the acoustic drudgery of the old mold, and got even further away when I added some distortion. Oh, fuck, this sounds incredible. Oh, yeah, baby. The throbbing sub-octave, the weird tracking that this has, I mean, it all combined into an ugly and unbelievably exciting mess. A pretty mess, a good mess, the kind of mess that can actually turn into something. So I abandoned the old mold and threw myself into this new, like, electro something version of the song. I recorded a bunch of other tracks, and as often as possible I tried to do things that are unusual for me, that have basically no relationship with the styles and sounds that went into those old versions. And at some point, as I was like shouting background vocals, "Oh, burying myself," or dabbling in ambiance, or double tracking a ridiculous solo, I would ask myself, what am I doing? The craftsman in me panicked because he didn't have a mold. He didn't have a clear idea of where this was heading. And yes, that meant that I took a lot of wrong turns and ended up doing way more tracks than I expected. That's yesterday me, and he doesn't even know what he's talking about because I did 2 more tracks and 1 more bounce today. Yes, sometimes even when you think you're done, you're not really done. But I've spent enough time as a creator trusting the craftsperson and probably too little time trusting the conjurer. So I decided to try something different this time and to keep trying it, hoping that I would conjure enough interesting things that the ultimate result would be good, or at least it would have some sign of spark of real creative energy that I might even be able to see a few years down the line. It's hard to tell how I'm going to feel about it in the distant future. But tonight, having just done a final mix down, I feel really good about what I've created. And I feel good about the process, which I'm going to go through in more detail in a subsequent video, but I don't really want to think about that right now. Instead, I'm just going to bask in the afterglow of having experienced so much magic over the last couple of days. It's not tidy, it's not efficient, but it kind of reminds me of why I started writing songs in the first place. Maybe you can relate. And if so, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. I hope you're doing well. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you around.